Hi everyone, Greg Heilman here with the Sound on Stage. We've got another episode of Get to Know a Theater. Today I'm sitting with Lynn Smith, founder and artistic partner at Freehold Theatre Lab and Studio. So I make sure I get that right. Robin, welcome.
Thank you for your interest in this, Greg.
Well, at first I hadn't heard about your organization until I think it was Anyone Can Whistle a few weeks ago when I went to see that. I saw a reference to that, and looking at a lot of the shows that I've been to this year, Freehold's kind of a little thread that weaves its way through between Gin Hammond and Living Incognito to I know we're going to have Fat Ham here at Seattle Rep. There's a whole list of our whole display of posters out on the wall out there that I took a snapshot of, and I'll show everybody. But
okay.
All the shows that Freehold's had some influence in. But let's go back to the beginning. So you were founder of the organization. Can you
one
tell
of
us
the founders.
Tell us about how the organization formed.
So we were all professionals coming either from Los Angeles, or one of our founders was from Paris or New York City, and we had come to Seattle, and we wanted to have a place where we could devote ourselves to experimentation, to performance, and to training in terms of trying to take the art form forward. And as practicing people already, we wanted to have a place that anyone could come that would be a laboratory for people who are already in the profession to continue to come back and grow and raise the artistic bar of excellence and reinvest and rejuvenate and get inspired again in terms of their own growth and passion and going forward. And also make a place where people from any walk of life could come in. And I did karate for years, so I always think of it like a dojo for art. It's like a center for the practice of theater, practice meaning like a martial art is a practice that you go back in, you work, and you go to a different level every time you're sort of focusing on that kind of growth. So
interesting. So is this something that you found, as you all came together with various amounts of experience? Is it something that you found was lacking in other places, or especially in Seattle here, but in some of the other places you've been, or is it something that you've seen bits and pieces of, and you thought, I just want to take these things and put them together?
I think there have been bits and pieces, certainly, in my coming up in my own training, in my own young professional life in New York City. Well, and Chicago's like this too. There are places where people are really focused on growth and experimentation and deepening and clarifying and making better and truer the work that we do. And I think that there are bits and pieces of that in Seattle. We just happened as the founders to come together and say, we really want to have a place where that is what the main thrust is. It's not like a byproduct. It's not like something that maybe we'll get to if we blah, blah, blah. But that is, it's also, Mark Jenkins was one of our founders, and he always would say, this is a place that is absolutely anti-cynicism. I can't say it. Anti-cynicism. And I think there's something about saying we believe that we can be truer. We believe that this art form can bring a great and deep connection to each other in ways that sometimes other things can't, and that it can keep us, in the best sense of this, humble and pursuing. And I think that that's sort of the core of it.
Well, there are a lot. I mean, you just go to some of and it doesn't even have to be live theater, music, and other performing arts. And there's so much creativity in Seattle, and it's nice to have a space that's inclusive and supports that experimentation. And like you said, to move things forward, which gets me to your mission. I just want to make sure I get this. Part of the mission says that Freehold engages the artist in every human through theatrical training, experimentation, and practice. Now you've got two main components of the organization: the theater lab and the studio. If you could just go into the difference between the two and how each of them address your mission.
Great. So the theater lab is for more or less already trained, like basic trained professional artists who are wanting to go deeper and go further in their work. So that has come about, the different kinds of projects, and we've had a lot of different, I can talk to you more about Engaged Theater, which is our main thing right now, but We've brought masters over from Russia, two Meyerhold gentlemen, Gennady Bogdanov and Lena Anisimov, who was like a Stanislavski person. We have brought masters in dance theater from Canada. We have done generation of new work. We have done creating a collective of people to try things out with each other. That has been going on for the laboratory, and that has been, the mission of that is not to do classes per se, but to do projects that take us deeper. And I would love to talk more about the Engaged Theater in a second, but I want to do the studio first. The studio is really a place where anyone can come in and see what it is to participate in this practice, in this art form. And we have beautiful playwriting teachers, and we teach directing, and we've been doing more with film, and we do movement, and we do voice, and we do solo performance and devising, and we do acting classes. We have a core progression of acting classes. And people can come back to work that they used to do and they haven't for a while, or they can come in brand new because they've always wanted to try it. And we really welcome people of all identities to come in and find the power of the creative force in themselves. And it's there in every single person. And it's just thrilling for us to get to work with people from a wide range of identities and backgrounds and say, okay, what can we learn from each other also?
Yeah, so I've seen a number of people in the community theater level who love acting, love being in theater, but don't necessarily know how to get from, we'll say, a small theater in Kitsap County to the Rep or the Fifth Avenue or whichever it is. So are those the kind of people that can come in here and learn about what it is to take that next step?
Absolutely. And we have a third component that is kind of a bridge between these two, which is our, used to be called the Ensemble Training Intensive, and this year we're launching it for the first time in partnership with Seattle Film Institute, and we're offering an MFA in filmmaking, acting, and producing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so that's a much more intensive combination of things. It's a 2-year program, but it's really a bridge between the place where you're trying things out and you're letting yourself, do your other jobs and all those things. Hopefully you can do your jobs and do the MFA too. But it's a place where that intensive training can happen. There's sort of like a time and energy and focus that is needed to kind of emerge into that next step. So yes, so that we're doing that. Jin's part of that too.
Great. Yeah, Jin Hammond, who we had on the show a little while ago talking about her new play, Incognito, up at Key City. So let's talk about Engaged Theater. I know this is something that's very special to you, and through reading the About page on your website, it's a very impactful program. Can you go into that a little bit?
We wanted to deepen the communion between the audience and the performer. We wanted to experiment with what it is to play in situations that are not traditional and play for audiences that may or may not have had a lot of experience with theater, and and see what happens when you bring a Shakespeare play to a prison yard. What happens with that? What do we do when we went to Wounded Warriors American Lake, to a veteran center with Julius Caesar, right?
Oh, wow.
We took these plays, and we've done new plays also, Auntie Val and the Buddy Bolden Project. We have found that it makes the artist, and these are professional productions, right? We have a beautiful composer who's done a lot of work for us, is Gino Yadovich from Culture Shock. I don't know if you know Gino, but
I don't know.
He's an amazing human being, first of all, but also like a consummate artist from Sarajevo. And we do, fully professional casts, and we do it very physically, but we use, like if we're doing Shakespeare, we do all of the language. We cut them because you have to, if you're playing in the prison yard, you got to get it in under 2 hours, right? But it makes us, as the artists performing and creating it, have to be truer, have to be, in the best sense, more present, more authentically, absolutely here in this moment. And so it makes our work better to go into these situations where you don't have lighting, you don't have a lot of things that we, beautifully depend on in a big theater. And we are bringing these cool people who are not going to lie to us or sit there politely, right? If we don't engage them, they're not going to be there. They're going to go play baseball or something, you know? To bring them into these stories. And it's really quite thrilling. And we learn an enormous amount from these people, and we learn a lot from what they bring to from their experience to these stories. I've got all kinds of stories I can tell you, Greg, but I don't know how much time we have. But it's profound. It's a very different experience than playing in a theater. And we play them in theaters too. We bring them into town, and we play them here. We play them in the parks, you know, also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that actually ties nicely into a guest I had a little while ago, Alan Harrison, who wrote a book called Scene Change, where he talks about theaters need to start selling impact more than just entertainment. Mm. And one of the examples he used was an orchestra, symphony orchestra, that would send a quartet or a small group down to a homeless encampment under a bridge, and they'd also bring some social workers with them and help, you know, engage the homeless, and then through the music, and then the social workers would work with the homeless and try to get them jobs or cleaned up or whichever. And this seems like the kind of impact that I know he's talking about, where you're taking the art to people that aren't necessarily going to have access to it. So it broadens their perspective, as art does for everyone, and it also allows your folks to get a new perspective on audiences and things like that. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, no, it's quite, I mean, I feel incredibly fortunate that we get to do this. We've also, and I will tell you a couple stories, but we've also started as another component of the Engage Theater. We do residencies, and we've done this at Monroe. Before the pandemic, we did, I think, 13 years at Monroe and 16 years at the women's prison at Purdy. And we go in, and the self-selected people who are inside want to participate in this, and we generate a script based on their poetry, their stories, their pieces. We thread it together, and we perform it for their families and visitors, and then for the other people in the institution. And it's so powerful. Okay. It is so, but funny too. Powerful, funny. It's just like a terrific, terrific opportunity for us to learn more. And we bring people in from the outside, and they learn a lot more about the people who are inside, because we all have these like ideas of who's inside and who's not inside, you know. So it's a great bridge between what's going on and what's going on out here. But the other thing about telling the stories in there is sometimes they know more about this stuff than we do, like big time. Both in terms of the literature sometimes, and sometimes just in terms of the human situation, you know. And we were, a couple stories, we were doing Othello, and we hadn't brought a full-on tragedy in yet, and we were doing just some scenes, and I knew I had to do sort of, to see how it was going to run with the women inside, I had to do the murder of Desdemona, and just like go through that and just see how everybody was doing after that. We were having a talk back, and people were just so insightful about like it really who's culpable and all the different characters' participation and how this came down. It's not just Iago, it's not, you know, so it was beautiful. And this woman's sitting in the back, and she's there, and I said, she put her hand up. I said, what's up? She goes, this is heartbreaking. I said, okay, let me ask you all something. Why should we tell heartbreaking stories? And she said, because it's true, and we're not alone. And I went, okay, if there's any reason to do stories and to do tragedies, it's that.
Yeah.
You know, and so that, and we did the same play. We did the full production for the men's prison, and we did it for several different components of the men. There's like 4 campuses up there. And one of the campuses that the people that we work with were like, oh, they're not going to want to see a play. And I was like, okay. So I saw these guys in another group that I was working with. And I said, if we brought a play in here, would you all come? They were like, yeah. So we had this great group of guys watching Othello and just like responding to everything, but responding to stuff that most audiences don't. Like when he kills Rodrigo, they get furious at Iago, you know, things like that. It was so cool.
Yeah.
But then at the talkback, one of the way that people were responding and asking questions was a range from, has this guy written anything else, to, you cut part of the speech in Act 5, I will see you in Shreve. I was like, yeah, I did. And you know the text that fully.
Wow.
So it's kind of an amazing
Yeah.
array of different people's responses to that. We had a gentleman who came to see that same production, who had been inside for a while, who 6 months later, I got a packet with a handwritten manuscript, and the cover letter on it was, I had never seen a play before. I've written a lot of stories. I thought when you all were coming in, what do these people from Seattle know about me, about my life? But when I watched the play, the communication was more direct and more immediate than anything I had experienced. So I wrote my own play. So he wrote this play. It was really quite good. It was really good. I kept trying to talk the DOC into letting us do it. And they were like, no, that's favoritism. But it was profound. And his response to having this was just so personal and so present and beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where I get.
Again, there's an artist in every one of us, as, to your point earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That's a great perspective, because you think of people in prison, and a lot of people make generalizations about the people, but it sounds like through these experiences you get to look at what these people are human,
and they have powerful voices, and they have powerful stories. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the I guess the wall of posters out there that is really impressive with how this organization has had an impact on local professional and community theater. Is there a show that's listed out there, or something that you can say is the, pun intended, I suppose, poster child of how Freehold should work in creating and experimenting for something that ends up on one of the stages here?
I think I'll use a couple of examples. It's like the whole show maybe, but it's more people who have worked with us a lot. In Fat Ham, Felicia Loud and Aisha Kita are two. There's other people in that cast who worked with us either on tour, either as the Engaged Theater program like Reggie, or as students. Mm-hmm. And Aisha and Felicia, to me, are both stellar examples of artists who come from a deep, specific truth and share that. They don't hide. They bring that to the characters that they're building in such a specific and generous and courageous way that it does something different to the audience. And we don't always get that far as what those two women can do, but we are aiming for that in some way, both in the way that we're training and the way that we're rehearsing and going after telling stories.
Great. I was looking at the organizational structure. Now you've got a managing director, and you've got a number of artistic partners.
Yes.
Listed out there.
Yes.
What are the roles of each of those?
Great. We went from an artistic director to an artistic partnership for that lead in the artistic role. I think it was 3 years ago. So Jen Hammond, Annette Tatangi, and I are the sort of the threesome at that level of things, which is the studio. And Annette does a lot for us on a lot of levels, but also is kind of the head of the curriculum in the studio. And Jen is somebody who's been very, very, very central in a lot of parts of Freehold. The most recent thing right now is that she is the head with me of this MFA program. So that has been a really exciting thing. Elena Flory Barnes is our associate partner for community capacity. So she is working with making sure that everyone who shows up here can be absolutely seen, that we welcome all people of all identities to come and participate, and that we are working with somebody like Elena, as well as the rest of our faculty and our staff, to make sure that everyone feels seen and welcomed and that they belong here. Beverly Lackey is an associate partner. She is working with youth programming, which really is a new thread for Freehold of coming together. She teaches at the center school. She did the beginnings of a residency. She's worked with me at the women's prison too for years before the pandemic. But she is started the residency at Echo Glen last summer.
Okay.
And she's magic with the young people. Liza Comtois is a producing partner. She comes in with an amazing amount of wisdom and insight and helps us with structure and with strategic planning and with like figuring out how to produce things in a different way. So those are our different partners.
Great. And how many studios do you have? I've passed 2 on my way here.
Right,
What
we
other-
have 3 major spaces in this. So when we came in here, so we got booted out of the Oddfellows Hall. That was a whole other story. But yeah, the guys who bought the building were like, we'll give you half the space for 3 times the rent. And we went like, yeah, okay, fine. So we found this place. When we found this place, it was completely trashed. It was like Mark, who's a wonderful guy who owns the building, was like, I didn't think I was even going to rent it. We were just going to sell the building. So we were like, what if we wanted to rebuild it out? He went like, okay. And I said, we need a long lease for that. And he agreed, which was like super cool.
Nice.
So we built this out. We have a black box theater and 2 other movement acting studios, and then a small library where we can have different kinds of classes up there.
Okay.
So really there's 4 studios altogether.
Great. Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many theaters that, because when you come in the door, it's you have a red door in the front, and it has Freehold on it. You walk down the stairs and you come in, then it's this kind of expansive, hallway and studios. And I've noticed some of the best places in Seattle are built like that. We're a block away from the theater off. I don't know if it's a block away, but we're close to the theater off Jackson.
Oh yeah.
Same kind of thing. You go in, you go downstairs, and it's this beautiful little theater in there. And there was one over in Ballard, I think we went to last. It was just this little.
Oh,
like
I know that theater too. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it's great that you can use these little spaces that nobody else would necessarily use because it's underground.
Right. No, totally.
So if somebody is interested in coming here for classes or just taking the next step in their career, what do they do? Do they go to your website?
They can go to the website. We have 4 quarters of classes, and sometimes we have new workshops and new classes coming along besides the main program of studio. We have this MFA. If anybody wants to come, send me an email about that. I'll talk to you individually. We have the Engaged Theater program, which will have some public readings of things and some different kinds of processes. We had this beautiful program that Jen Moore facilitated for the last couple of years, where we had artists in residence here that come from the global majority, and Jen curated it. We just had these beautiful pieces done that were very much about process of creating. And so those are kinds of things to look up on our website. We are working on a project. Is this what you want to hear right now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're working on a project right now with a partner from Langa, Cape Town, and 2 different playwrights from Seattle. One is actually from Tehran, Nagma Semeni, who's also with Seda Theater, and Elizabeth Heffron, and then Fatima Dike. And we're working, it's a project that we are developing about gender-based violence and how that is insidious and all over the planet, and creating a project that we hope to produce fully in 2025.
Excellent. Yeah, so much impactful theater. That's one of the nice things about theaters, right? Like the Rep and ACT and some of the other ones that provide thought-provoking perspectives through art. And that sounds like this is right up that right in that category. Now you guys are a 501c3.
Yes, we are.
How can people support?
Okay, well, we always welcome it. We are having a gala on May 16th, so come to that. It's going to be really fun. It's at Georgetown Ballroom, and it'll be like really good food, and it'll be a lot of great people there, and a lot of fun, and more information and more things from Freehold if you want to get to know more about us. We usually have like sample classes, and we have some open houses and things if you just want to come by. But anybody can reach out to our staff and say, I would like to talk to somebody from the faculty, and one of us will get back to them and meet with them and talk about the classes that they're looking for.
Excellent. And I assume if someone wanted to donate, is there a place on the website?
Yes, there is.
Well?
Thank you. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yes, we welcome any and all help that we can get.
Excellent. All right. Well, Robin Lynn Smith, thank you so much. You are the founder or co-founder, artistic partner here at Freehold Studio Lab and Theater. Appreciate you taking the time. What a wonderful organization this is, and as a for experiments, experimental theater and labs, and developing kind of this next generation of theater in Seattle. So, and to you, thank you for tuning in to Get to Know a Theater. Once again, I'm Greg Heilman with the Sound on Stage. And until next time, I will see you at the stage door.